Hello, everybody. Welcome to GCRE. Today we have the Money with Meg show where we're going to be discussing the customer is wrong. Seems to be like it's going to be a really interesting show today. So let's wait without further ado and introduce Meg to the show. Meg, hi. How are you doing today?
Hi, Gavin. Thanks for having me on again.
That's good. It's always a pleasure to have you guys on here. So today we're going to be speaking about the customer is wrong.
hmm
I understand it's a bit of a joke. So do tell more.
Okay, yeah. So today we're going to be talking about the borrower, the customer is wrong. Pretty much, just being in the mortgage business, honestly, you could be dealing with a priest, someone who's very, very common. This is just a business where people get heated. You could be dealing with, like I said, the calmest person in the world. At some point in the transaction, they're probably going to call you angry. And a lot of times we have to tell people, you're wrong. This is not how it works. Just want to point out that obviously, we're not doing that in any unprofessional way, but really it's a lack of education on the lending process and how things work. And that's why people get heated. And you just have to learn how to deal with those things. And the first way is to educate. So sometimes, though, you might have a bar that calls you up screaming and cursing. And you might have to be, whoa, 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 hold on a second. And again, tell them, hey, you're wrong. This is how it works. So we're going to go over a couple examples today of people that call things that agitate people throughout the business and how they do call in angry and how we calm them down. So one big thing, a lot of the lenders that we deal with here are in the secondary market, meaning they're not actual banks, not brick and mortar banks. So a lot of those lenders and even banks sometimes too will have prepayment penalties on their loans. Now, on 1 to 4 unit residential properties, that could be really, really confusing because if you go to get a residential home loan, there is no such thing as a prepayment penalty on a residential home loan. So I have had people call into our office literally threatening to call the state on us, mortgage fraud, all this stuff, that there's a prepayment penalty on one of our 1 to 4 unit investment property loans. And I have to explain to them, this is a commercial loan. We're doing it commercially. You're closing an LLC. We're not doing this as a residential loan. You're not going through a residential loan process right now. When it comes to commercial lending, most commercial lenders have prepayment penalties. Now, the only ones that don't have prepayment penalties are credit unions. Credit unions do not have prepayment penalties. But a lot of banks, if you're closing some type of corporate entity, just keep in mind, you're most likely the commercial lender is going to have a prepayment penalty for you because they want to be making those interest only payments. They want to make sure the loan is worth their while, basically, is the point of that. Residential home loans, again, that does not apply, but we have literally had people calling us, screaming, yelling that we're scamming them. They're going to call the state. And if someone's going to get that loud, I will jump right on the phone and just say, hey, you're wrong. That's not how this works in commercial lending. Just give me a second. Let me explain it to you. So that's one of the big things. Another thing people call in a lot and are angry. Well, my attorney said this and my attorney said that, and I get that when the people have so much respect for it. Either they have a lot of respect for attorneys or they don't. Right? There's like no in between. Some people just believe everything their attorney says. They don't care, but you have to understand, real estate attorneys might know how to do certain things in a real estate transaction, but they don't understand anything about the mortgage. They're not the ones explaining the rates and terms to you or how this loan works or what you're subject to. Sometimes real estate attorneys will jump into a transaction and act like, I'm representing my client and everyone is trying to scam my client. And it's like, no, everyone's trying to help your client. Everything was properly explained to your client. If your client needs help and it doesn't understand certain things about the mortgage, have them call me because they're also our client as well. So you just got to be careful. A lot of times real estate attorneys will jump in. I'll have clients call in, well, my attorney said this, my attorney said that. Now, if your attorney is handling the closing, yes, your attorney understands the actual closing process, but that's the very end of the transaction. And we went through that, Gavin, a couple of weeks ago, the steps of the commercial real estate lending process. The attorney does not come in, which they're a closing attorney is what they are. They do not come into the transaction until everything is already done. We've already went through 20 steps. The appraisal came back, everything. So you got to understand, they don't actually understand the mortgage process. All they understand is how to get the stack of papers, the closing docs from the lender, and make sure the borrower signs it correctly and return it. And then they charge their client a couple $1,000s to do that. And that was all they did. So just be careful about the whole attorney thing. We do have to tell clients, your attorney is not the one who put the mortgage together for you. We were. So if you have questions about the mortgage, please come to us, not your attorney. All right. We already went over that fact that people are just confused. Another big thing that happens all the time, and this is just part of being a good mortgage broker and trying to explain, I'm always trying to explain things to people that I know are going to upset them before it happens, because there's parts of a loan that always upset people.
Yeah.
Coordinating with third parties always upsets people. Appraisals these days are ordered through AMCs, appraisal management companies. So us as the mortgage broker, we have no direct access to the appraiser. We don't even know who they are. That's always something that is very upsetting. I go through this all the time on loans because the AMC hires an appraiser. That appraiser is supposed to call the point of contact to schedule the appraisal. Well, if the point of contact's not the borrower and it's someone else, like the property manager or a partner or the tenant in the property, and they're not communicating, the borrower will call us angry saying, why is my appraisal not getting scheduled? Well, you didn't want to be the point of contact for the appraiser, and I've already told you you should be the point of contact, because you would think your tenant would pick up the phone and schedule the appointment, but your tenant doesn't really care about your loan. So, you need to be the point of contact. I always advise my clients, I know you're probably really busy, but please be the point of contact for the appraiser, because this happens all the time. If you make it someone else, I don't know why people just can't call each other back or get on the same page. The appraiser is literally calling that point of contact, so they have each other's phone numbers.
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason, if it's not the borrower, it never gets scheduled right. And I would love to be that person to just schedule it, because I would get it done. But unfortunately, we're not allowed. Mortgage brokers are not allowed these days, ever since 2008, to have direct contact with the appraiser. And that's for residential or commercial lending. So borrowers will call in very upset. Why is my appraisal not getting scheduled? Again, we should have went back to what I initially told you. You should have been the point of contact for the appraiser, because then you would have known that what date they reached out. Now it's he said, she said. Oh, we reached out 4 days ago. Oh, no, they didn't. It was 2 days ago. Now we're causing frustration. That's really the biggest third party that is frustrating. You are dealing with title representatives. You are dealing sometimes with lawyers. You are dealing with insurance representatives. But those people can easily be replaced. If we're not getting, that can cause frustration to clients. But if a lot of times, instead of them calling him mad, when I already see that happening, I see those third parties they've picked not getting back to us, I will call the client and say, I will stop that before it goes there. I've called your attorney now 3 times that's handling the title work, and he or she is just not getting back to me. What do you want to do here? We can give it another 2 days, but I would say at that point we need to cut it off. We need to move on, which really stinks, because then the client's mad. Well, now my closing is going to be delayed. You're right, it is, but the third party that you picked to do that job couldn't get it done. So I always remind people, I'm still here. I'm sticking with you. I'm not going anywhere, Didn't intend to become your therapist, but if you want to rant, I get it, But I always just remind people, look, we can replace that person, so don't worry about it. And again, I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying here. All right, we went over prepayment penalties. Okay, quoting. Quoting is always something that confuses people. So you will based on the loan application the client gives you, you will give them an initial loan quote for that type of commercial real estate loan. Now, in all of our quotes, I have not a ton of disclaimers, but because our loan quotes are very, very detailed. So, if anyone goes to Gavin's website to ever apply for a loan with us, you're going to get a very, very detailed loan offer. It's going to go through everything, not just the loan amount, any type of prepayment penalty, obviously loan term, loan amortization, what the rate adjusts to after the fixed period. I already mentioned prepayment penalty. It's going to be very detailed. It's going to break down your closing costs as well as go through the terms. Obviously, the interest rate will be on there as well, monthly mortgage payment. But any little nuances about the loan, we will also mention in there. Now, this loan quote, everything in commercial real estate lending is based on 2 things, depending on the loan type. Well, it's always based, though, on the appraisal, the property coming back appraising at these numbers that you gave us. Now, nobody knows what the property is going to come back and appraise at. I myself am not a real estate investor. So I always tell people, I'm giving you a loan offer based off of the numbers you've given me. You said this was the as-is value, this is going to be the ARV, or you said this is the as-is value, and here's the rents if it's a permanent loan. But, nobody knows. So as you go through the process, people will get very frustrated and call in, because they really don't understand the whole quoting thing. Someone will say, oh, well, I'm doing a rehab loan and it's based on, not only the numbers of the deal, the as is an ARV, it's based on a certain mid-FICO score, it's based on a certain experience level, it's based on where the property is located as well. Is it a desirable location or is it not so desirable? When you go through the process, well, that person's FICO scores aren't what they say they were. Okay, now the quote changed. You have to keep very, very good track so your clients don't get upset. I literally will create a Word document throughout the mortgage process. I have their initial quote. I always date the day that I gave them that quote. If the quote changes, I put the revised quote, the date, the quote change, and why. Your FICO was not 650, it's 600. Okay, now he said he did 5 fix and flips in the past 2 years, but he's only done 2. That may make him a different tier with the lender. Mm-hmm. Date it. This is why the quote changed. You have to keep good documents because this is something people call and very agitated about. If you do not keep good track of the loan file and how it's going from here to here to here in terms of the quoting process, people will burn you. They will call you, you said this, you said that. Mm-hmm. You're right. I did say that when you gave me different facts in the beginning. Yeah. But as we're going through the process, these things are now changing. So that's why your loan offer is now changing. Then again, it already changed 3 times now. Now the appraisal comes back and the as is and the after repair value aren't what they said they were. And that's kind of a rough situation to be in because sometimes you have a borrower that's right. Their values are much better than what the appraiser put on the report. But unfortunately, the lender is going to purely go off the third-party report. That's how everything's done in real estate. Everyone is third parties, so everyone has to work together to get things done. One thing I just always stress when I'm quoting people, because that is also number one thing that frustrates people, they will call upset about, is just let them know this loan offer is based on these numbers you are giving me. Now, when the loan offer comes back, the appraisal comes back, we will finalize terms then. But if any of these numbers change, obviously your loan offer is going to change. And then people are kind of like, well, what happens if the numbers change? You can only quote someone so much, but what you can do on quotes to try to prevent this frustration, let them know. Let them know LTVs, and that's something we do in quotes too. Okay, well, the lender's only going to give you 75% of the purchase price. They will fund all the rehab, but the loan is capped at 65% of the completed value. So if you can just break down those numbers for them, and again, show them how it works on the quote, literally break it down and do the math, and I email it to them so they can see it. So your client will keep asking you, well, what if the numbers come in at this? And what if the rehab is this? And what if the after repair is that? If you know how the math works now that I've broken it down for you, you can spend all day long changing the numbers yourself to see how it would work, So just really be upfront about that. But yes, you will have clients that will call you really upset. You said this, you said that when I got into the loan. We did. So we're not deliberately saying you're wrong, but remember that was, you have to bring them back to the beginning. Yeah. Remember that was based on the initial application information you gave me. Now that I'm going on and getting documents and you can't provide this and that, things are changing. So that is definitely a big one. One thing that is a little bit of a hard spot to be in as a mortgage broker, residential or commercial, and I think it's more commercial, to be honest with you, is that lenders, once you have all the docs in, sometimes, the quote changes several times, and then of course it changes maybe again once the appraisal comes back. Then after everything is actually in, proof of insurance, title work, all the mortgage docs, again, appraisal, the lender goes to committee. And after they have everything, a board or maybe just one person, maybe just 2 people are actually going to decide if they want to do this loan or not. So people will call in, of course, very upset if even after everything comes back, the property appraises, again, you give them another final loan offer. The loan committee could still just decide you change the loan offer because they think it's risky or they don't like how we went into the deal. The borrower said he had this and he can't provide this, or loan committee didn't like that. We're going to cut his LTV by 5%. So when you have to call someone and explain that to them, and then they have to bring more money to the table, they're 100% going to be upset. Not an easy conversation to have. That's not something where you would tell them the customer is wrong. I just, in that situation, will just explain, here's the new, we went to committee to get final approval. This is where they're at with the deal. I'm sorry about their decision. Can you still make it work for you? Hopefully we can, but try not to draw that conversation out too much. I mean, talk to your partners. Can you make it work, or can you not? So, okay. All right. So another thing that people call in all the time about where they actually are wrong on is just paperwork, just going through the mortgage process. People don't really understand a lot what is what, especially with entity documents. I will have people all the time, I'll ask them, because again, all of our clients are closing in some type of corporate entity, LLC, corporation, it could actually be a trust. Again, any type of entity. So I always need your state articles, your operating agreement if it's an LLC, your bylaws if it's a corporation, EIN document, and certificate of good standing. Those are the 4 documents every single commercial lender in the United States, and I'm sure in the world, but I'll just say in the United States since that's where I'm from, needs in order to close your loan. People just don't understand sometimes what they are. They will send you their state articles, and I sent you my operating agreement. And I'm like, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. People will call in mad, and I'll pull up the document in front of them and say, are you in front of your computer right now? Look at what you sent me. At the top, it actually says Pennsylvania state articles of formation. Those are your state articles you filed with the state. Now, an operating agreement actually at the very top will say operating agreement. They're actually pretty easy to distinguish what they are because they actually have that title at the very top. Mm-hmm. Kind of simple, right? So, yeah, kind of simple. Even the certificate of good standing, it says certificate of good standing. So it's pretty simple, but people just get very heated on documents, especially entity documents. A lot of times what happens is you'll be dealing with a person who wants to close in an LLC or even a corporation, and they're just a one-person entity. Even if they're a one-person entity, they still have to submit bylaws or an operating agreement, which to the client always sounds weird, and there's always pushback on that. No, I don't. Clients will call me and say, no, I don't have to submit that. The state does not require that. Okay, but the lender does, and they're the ones that have the money. So what do you want to do here? That being said, I just explained to them, I understand you're a one-person company, but just keep in mind, nowhere on your other entity documents does it say who makes up your entity. Your state articles don't say that. Your EIN document that you file with the IRS does not say that. Your certificate of good standing does not say that. The only way the lender knows who makes up the company is by an operating agreement or by the bylaws. And the operating agreement clearly states, usually at the bottom, who are all the members, their ownership percentages, and everyone has to sign. Bylaws are very similar, it's just shares. How is the lender supposed to know who makes up the entity? Like, they're not just going to lend money to anybody. They want to know who's behind the entity. And again, if you're over a 20% member, they're going to run credit and background checks on all of you to make sure you're not a felon or to make sure you're not wanted on the terrorist list or something, So when you kind of break it down, because I get this, people call it a lot about this whole operating agreement thing, very upset. And it's always, well, my state doesn't require that. And I try not to chuckle, but inside my head, I am a little bit. And here's another thing too. A lot of people will say that to me too, with about certain documents in the mortgage process. Well, my state doesn't require that, and it doesn't matter. Your state is not doing a loan for you. The lender is. They can ask you for whatever they want to ask you for. To be honest with you, if they want a copy of your birth certificate, they're going to ask you. A lot of times, of course, they want not just your driver's license, but other identification, social security cards, copy of your bills. Let's see where you live. So people do get heated when it comes to documents. They don't understand some of them. So you really have to just get in front of the screen with them and literally show them, hey, this attachment that I sent you, when I actually email people back on what they sent me, I will title the attachment. If they sent me their state articles and they're telling me it's the operating agreement, I will actually label it back to operating agreement - not state articles. So when I can call them and they're in front of their computer, I can say, hey, Mr. Smith, can we go through these documents? I know you sent me something that you thought was your operating agreement, but it's not. And I want to show you what it really is. And again, if someone doesn't know how to create an operating agreement or bylaws, I can show them how to do that. It's very easy. Literally, just for people watching this, for more free advice, because that's what we like to do on the show, you can literally Google operating agreement, example operating agreement in your state, and an example will come up. You'll see stuff from LegalZoom, but you'll also see several examples. If anyone ever needs an example of an operating agreement that you literally can just fill in, please contact us at the link. We can get it over to you. It's really not a big deal. It's once you explain it to people, they kind of understand it. Again, go back to that, how is the lender supposed to know who makes up the entity? Because that's the only document that shows that. And then when you say that, they realize, oh, I was wrong. She's right. It doesn't say that on any of the entity documents. Not that we're going to keep talking about documents, but of course, when someone submits a loan application, it should be signed, it should be initialed where it needs to be initialed, it should be dated, it should be fully filled out. Some lenders do have extensive loan submissions, so you're really going to have to go through it and recap with them, and you're always going to get that one person that's going to be like, I did do that, I did sign that. No, you didn't. Let's yeah. Which the way to just not turn that into an argument is I just say to people, because again, we always want to be professional, but this is a business where people get heated. Like I told you, over just sometimes minute things like documents. I just say, hey, when you have some time, when you're at your computer, let's look at the documents together and let's go through it together. And I can show you what I'm seeing that's not filled out. If you don't trust my recap email that I sent you, let's do it together. And then sometimes the tune changes a little bit. Okay. Well, I'll just review the email and I'll get back to you. Okay. All right.
That's usually enough to quiet them.
What?
That's usually enough to keep them quiet.
Well, then they just realize, hey, maybe I did make a mistake. The problem with this business, any mortgage business, is people just want to get through the process and get done. And I get it. And where a lot of these disputes come into and a lot of this heatedness is people just want to shove and shove and shove documents at you or information at you. But if you're an experienced mortgage broker, what you have to always keep doing is slow people down. Like you have to, everyone, believe me, everyone's coming at you. If you're processing 30, 40 loans at once, which is what I do every single day, everyone wants their loan to close ASAP, everyone. So human nature, just shove, 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 shove. But you have to make sure that you are sitting and paying attention to these things and making sure they make sense. If someone, sends you in, and that's why it's always good to have a very, very good loan application that asks all the correct questions. And for anyone watching this screen, if you go to Gavin's link, it's 11capitalfinance.com /GCRE. The loan applications you will see on his page is the correct way to qualify a loan. If you keep that loan application in place in your file, once people are sending in documents, you could quickly go back to that main objective. Okay, well, they said they had 3 fix and flips on the loan application. Do I have 3 sets of purchase and sale HUDs? See, always keep a master, which should be your loan application. That's how you organize yourself. And that's how, when you're dealing with several files, you can make sure you're doing the right thing, but you need a proper master.
Mm-hmm.
So those are kind of the main things that really get people going, where they'll call in and they're very clear that they are right. Just one other big thing, I know we spoke about quoting, but when it comes to rehab deals and construction, ground up construction deals, I can't tell you how many people, and I've gone through this so many times over the past 10 years, but I think the past year I'm kind of really harping on people about it. So many people will send me a construction budget going into the deal. And of course, the appraiser needs that construction budget because based on your purchase price, your construction budget is going to determine what after repair value or completed value the appraiser puts on the appraisal. They're going to put an as-is value of the property and an ARV if it's a rehab deal. Ground up construction will just have a completed value because it's just a piece of land. There's nothing built there yet. I'm sure they'll mention the as-is value of the land, but it really comes into play after the completed value. Big thing. I always tell people this, please, you are giving me a construction budget, that an appraiser that you're paying this appraiser up front. You are paying this appraiser up front to determine an as-is, an ARV, or just a completed value if it's ground up, to determine the value of your property. Please make sure this construction budget you send me is correct. Sometimes people ask me, is it correct? I'm like, I don't know. Like, I'm not a real estate investor. You're supposed to be the real estate investor. If you're not sure, get a partner. If you're not sure, maybe ask a realtor. I don't know if they would know, but sometimes they can do CMAs and BPOs and stuff like that. Ask your general contractor. Ask the people doing the construction. So many times people will give me a construction budget to order the appraisal, and I will do that. And then throughout the process, as we're waiting for the appraisal to come back, they will say, oh, well, I'm sorry, my contractor is now giving me a new construction budget. We missed a couple of things. Okay, well, now that we missed a couple of things, this appraiser is determining a value on the property from what you previously gave me. You know, now you're changing the construction budget, which could change the outcome of your appraisal. So people will call in a lot about that, very upset. Well, my property didn't appraise where I thought it was going to. Yeah, and yeah, you're right. Probably because we should have given them now the second construction budget you gave me, but at this point it's too late. You know, I can send it over to the appraisal management company for you and have the appraiser take a look at it and take it into consideration, but he's going to charge you another fee for that because now he has to revise it won't be the full cost of the appraisal. It might just be a couple $100. But again, it's a couple $100. And if the person's upset about that, well, that's why I wanted to go into this with the correct budget. You know, and that's why I said that to you 50 times to make sure we were going into this correctly. But that happens a lot on rehab and ground up construction bills, and people will call in, you know, I don't understand why my property didn't appraise, and you told me this and you told me that. And it's like, always go back to the basics. No, let's go back to the basics. You know, I told you we needed a proper construction budget. And again, people are trying to rush your deal forward, rush, because I want to close right away. But I always tell people, you need the accurate information going in. We don't want to over rush just to the point where we get bad results. Because when you rush people, that's what happens. People make mistakes, or they'll you know, cheapen things. They'll do it quickly. And again, they're not putting together the right budget, and it's not giving us the right result. So a lot of things, that can go on. I do have a couple more here really quick. A lot of times people will call in upset, my loan's not going anywhere, what's going on? Even though we update people on a regular basis, we update people twice a week on their files. Well, I'm sorry, if they're not regularly getting back to us, we will follow up with you with an email, letting you know where the file is, what documents we still need, and a call twice a week. Sometimes you will have clients that they want to close right away. And then they ghost you for 2 weeks, and you're calling them and emailing them, and you can't get a hold of it. And then all of a sudden they call you up angry. Where's my file? What's going on? Where are we in the process? Are we closing yet? It's like, no, we're not closing yet. You haven't given me the documents I even need to get your appraisal ordered. So no, we're nowhere close to a close. So the thing is, you got to be very careful about that. As a client, if you're a real estate investor, you're borrowing money from someone, you're a business owner, you're borrowing money from someone, if you stall the lender, if you stall them, and it's not your mortgage broker, it's really the lender. If you stall them and they don't see the documents coming in after your mortgage broker's already told them we're moving forward on this, they will stall you back because they're going to pay attention to the files of the documents that are coming in. So a lot of times people will call in and they are wrong. Well, my file is not going anywhere. This is taking too long. Yes, because it took you 2 weeks to get me stuff. So again, being a good mortgage broker, you always have to set realistic expectations with clients. And I actually have a training too on that, Gavin, setting realistic expectations that maybe we could do one day. I always let people know your countdown to funding, and it's different times for different types of commercial real estate loans. Your countdown to funding does not start until your appraisal is ordered. I let them know that even in my quote, when I give them a quote. So if you need to close in 14 days and I need 7 things to get your appraisal ordered, I need those 7 things by tomorrow. And I will work very, very fast and process those things and get it going. I'll get your appraisal ordered that day. I'll work to midnight if I have to. I don't care, because that's what we do to get our clients' deals closed. But the countdown to funding does not start until that appraisal gets ordered. So you just got to set those realistic expectations. But people are very funny about that in this business. And it's really funny because we have a training program here that teaches people this business. And I can't tell you how many people are in our training program. And I do a weekly training with our reps here that will just to answer their questions and help them with their clients and stuff. And we'll say, Megan, I don't understand. This guy told me he had to move forward ASAP. Now he's calling mad that nothing is going on, but he hasn't turned in the documents. And I'm like, I know. It's I don't know why it's this business, but it is. And you just don't let it get to you. You just have to roll it off and just let them know. And, and like we are very detailed in our quotes. Just always take them back to the basics. In our quote, we did let you know countdown to funding does not start until you have all your documents in. Oh, by the way, we called you the past 2 weeks twice a week and emailed you twice a week. So that's 4 touches basically a week. So now we're at 8 touches and you're just getting back to us. So just again, take them back to the basics. Okay. Sometimes some borrowers, and we'll just end on this, Gavin. They are kind of wrong. I don't want to say it in the wrong way, but sometimes some clients just have very tough files. For whatever reason, there's so many reasons why people have tough files. We could even do a training about that. Mm-hmm. What are tough commercial real estate loan files? And you will work day and night to try to place that loan. Again, you really have to know the commercial real estate lending programs out there to be that sophisticated to do that. And you'll give them a quote, and it's not the best quote in the world because it's an extremely hard loan to place. I had a loan the other day, yesterday. The woman's a foreign national. She lives in Dubai. She wants to purchase a property here in Minnesota for $19,000 and then do 90 grand worth of rehab work to it. Now, if I can place that loan, and it's extremely difficult because first of all, she doesn't live here. So how is she going to manage the project? That's the first thing lenders are going to ask. The purchase price is so low that a lot of rehab lenders don't even want to mess with that. You need a $50K purchase price or more. And then her deal's flip side, or it's upside down. She's doing way more rehab to the property than the purchase price. Mm-hmm. Lenders, they don't like what they call shell purchases. If you're purchasing a property that's so cheap, you might just be purchasing a shell, and that's not the type of rehab deal they're trying to do. Like the house might fall down while you're trying to fix it. That's not what we're trying to do, So anyways, I actually think I do have a lender for her, but I told her on the phone, please do not expect any dynamic rates and terms. Like you're looking at probably 4 lender points, probably 4 broker points, because it's such a small deal. That sounds like a lot of points, but it's such a small deal. And we don't have really anything going for us here on this. So sometimes clients will get very upset when you give them quotes like that. And you wouldn't want to word it as you're wrong, but I just try to take them back and just say, look, ma'am, sir, this is why your deal is so hard to place, and this is what was difficult. And then after I go through my spiel, I will say to them, has anyone else given you any offers? And there's always a pause. Okay, so again, I didn't get you the best rates and terms in the world because I couldn't, because that's not this type of deal, but we were able to produce an offer for you, Mm-hmm. Sorry, ma'am, sir, I wish I could have gotten you a better offer, but again, like due to this, and this on the file, this is a very, very hard loan to place. I always give them some options to try to make it better. Maybe you could bring in a partner with better credit. Maybe you could bring in a partner with more liquidity. Maybe you could bring in a partner with more experience. That's always what makes commercial real estate loans terms better. Yeah. But hey, we were able to produce an offer. So sometimes people just get, I could just go to my bank for this. And no, you couldn't. So again, you're not going to tell them they're wrong, but they are dead wrong. It's, some transactions are not bank transactions. So that's kind of the main things. We already went over documents. Sometimes people just stop being organized, calling, I did sign that. No, you didn't. And I would like to get your appraisal ordered so we can move forward. So I cannot forge your signature for you. Would you mind taking time to sign it so we can move forward?
Pretty basic stuff.
Yeah, pretty basic stuff, to be honest with you. It's like, I'm trying to help you. Can you let me help you?
Yes. Well, it's funny, sometimes the basics of stuff we overlook or we fail to look at, or we think that the broker is going to do everything for us, when in reality we have to do most of the work.
And I try to do as much for our clients as I possibly can, but simple things like that, like I cannot sign your signature, I cannot initial your initials, but I'll help them. Again, if you don't know how to create an operating agreement, I'll give you the template. All you have to do is fill it in, and again, you have to date and sign it. I can't do that.
Yeah. Okay, good. Well, if anybody wants to contact Megan, there's a link just showing to the bottom of the screen here, 11capitalfinance.com/GCRE TV. Meg, it was a really good show today. That was quite entertaining, I have to say. And I look forward to doing the show next week again with you. Any last minute words for anybody before we close off the show?
No, that's just really it. Just, I think we went over this before. I always call this the most unprofessional professional business. And honestly, I really think I'm right on that. Maybe I can coin that saying somehow. It's a great business to get in. You can do it from anywhere. Not a lot of licensing requirements to get into this, but you still want to be trained. So make sure you're using the right mentors. But
Yes.
Again, just keep your cool and just always go back to the basics with people. And we're not calling them out, telling them they're wrong, but in a professional way, we kind of are letting them know, you are wrong. That's not how it works.
All right, cool. Okay, Megan, thanks for your time today. We appreciate it. And guys, again, if you need anything, 11capitalfinance.com/GCRE, and Meg will be more than happy to connect with you then.
Of course.
Take care.
Thank you, Kevin.
Hope you have a good one. Ciao. Bye.